Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching another one of my shows, William Wallace for America. As I like to say, I am William Wallace. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm with somebody today who looks a little bit more like William Wallace than I do. And that's Zeke Stout.
How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Zeke, you're
Good.
with, I'm bringing you on. Part of the reason is, for the school, MGS trade school.
Hmm.
But the other part of it is at the NRA convention, we have a lot in common and guns and stuff like that, and a passion for the Second Amendment. And I just thought you were a real interesting person. And I thought not only talk about the trade school, but about your background and everything. I got a whole list of questions off to the side. We're gonna have some fun if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Whenever you are.
But it's funny. I didn't think about that till I brought you on. I said, here my name is William Wallace, but you've got more the Mel
I
Gibson
got the
hair and the,
I gotta get the hair going here,
if you
so I
had
can
your
scream
face painted
freedom.
blue, yeah, exactly. If you had your face painted blue, you would definitely look more like Mel Gibson than me. I mean, more like Braveheart than me.
I even have the kilt on, but we're not gonna show that.
Yeah,
So
let's not show that.
yeah,
I
no,
always
we'll just keep that
jokingly,
low.
say I don't wear my kilt.
Yeah,
And it's well, we'll leave it at that.
I think
You
everyone
don't have your
knows.
kilt on. I'm like, I don't have my face painted blue either. It's funny because I ran for office 3 years ago, and people said, with a name like William Wallace, you should be knocking on doors, with your kilt on. And
Hmm.
I said, the problem with that is this, with two problems. If I wore my kilt to knock on doors, I would knock on a door, and in my luck, some girl would answer. She said, "Daddy, there's a man at the front door with a dress on," and the campaign would be over, Or
Yeah.
even worse yet, they wouldn't know if I was a Republican or a Democrat if I wore a dress on a campaign trail. That's just some
Yeah.
jokes for a live audience. But
Well, what's funny is I'm so scatterbrained today. I was telling Bill earlier, and I forgot we had committed to this. Well, we committed to it back in NRA back
yeah,
in May,
exactly. We've been talking about it for
and
6 months
we
now.
yeah, absolutely. We finally locked the date down last week. And I even talked about it in my meeting, my weekly planning meeting last week. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this interview with Bill Wallace or William Wallace for America, blah 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 blah. Blah. And then I get an email or a text from him saying, "Hey, I'm in the studio. You're gonna come on?" And I had just gotten an Instagram message from someone saying, "Hey, I saw you're gonna be on this Facebook thing," and I'm sitting there going, "What Facebook thing? I don't know what you're talking about." And I know
Somebody's
what it
watch us
was.
on Twitter there,
Yeah.
I was putting up on Twitter. Here we go. Yeah, this is I got I'm gonna even retweet it as we're talking here.
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I tapped it into the MGS school and
Yeah.
everything. But what's interesting though, Zeke, you actually your passion for this like a mimic actually goes back a little bit.
Yeah.
Not many people know about your time on reality TV.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. It's hard.
Does it?
People are like, "Is that a reality TV show?" And technically, yes, but really, it's a game show more than anything. And I was just a redneck game show host. But I mean,
Save a redneck.
if you really want to go back to, when I got into guns, I was born in Texas and raised in Tennessee. So both states give you a gun when you come out of the womb. So pretty much when it started. Um, but yeah, I got into the actual working in the industry part back in 2014. Well, technically 2012. I started Talking Lead. It was a podcast. It got to be a pretty big podcast in the firearms industry with Marty Left Hand Holder, and we did that for a few years. And I developed this strong passion for guns. I was never really a gun guy. I was pro gun, but I wasn't into it like I was after we started the podcast. And I just wasn't passionate for my job. And I reached out to all our sponsors and I was like, "Hey, anybody hiring?" And went to work for another gunsmithing school at the time, and became their chair. And then I became their executive vice president later, and did that for a while. And while I was doing that role, Discovery Channel, well, technically a casting agency, reached out and wanted me to audition to be this gunsmithing judge for a competition show, a weapons building competition. I didn't think it was ever going to happen, so I was like, yeah, why not? So when you don't care that much, you kind of let it
Right.
all hang out,
Yeah.
and I think that helped.
Are we talking
And
about
then
kilts again?
what's that?
We're talking about kilts again?
Yeah. So so we it was one of those moments where they were like, "Wait, you did radio and you've had a podcast and you did YouTube stuff." I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Why don't you audition to be the host?" I was like, "All right, sure." Still, I don't think it's gonna happen, and I'm just let it all hang out again, and I go at it, and next thing you know, I get a call, and they're like, "You're the host," and still at this point, I still didn't believe it. It's still, I'm like, this show is not gonna happen. You've got Forged in Fire over on History Channel. It's a lot like that. Yeah, you're adding guns and archery to it, but still, I just was being very, yeah, like, I'll believe it
Yeah,
when I
like, yeah,
see it.
whatever. It's gonna happen, right?
Yeah, and next thing you know, 8 months later, we're in Pennsylvania filming the thing, and then it goes to air about 8 months after that. So it was a really really cool experience. So yeah, and it was called Master of Arms. I'm sitting here talking about it. And we
Yeah.
didn't even say what it was. It's called Master of Arms.
Is the show still on?
No, we had one season, and they decided to move away in a different direction. So that's kind of what we did.
And after that, where'd you end up?
I actually took a year hiatus from the gun industry and did marketing in the motorcycle world because that's another passion of mine. I love motorcycles, and I marketed for Law Tigers, which is a accident injury attorneys that specialize in motorcycle accidents. So I was one of their marketing leadership, and then after a while, I started getting the itch and I wanted to get back in that education space, but this time I wanted equity. I wanted to have some ownership in the thing. And so I reached out to my old employer's biggest competitor and I said, "Hey, let's do what we did with them." And we've grown exponentially and we've done really really well. I get to have a lot more hands on and say on our curriculum, and make sure that it's done the right way. Not saying that the other program wasn't. There was just some things that I would rather have done, and I'm getting to do them now. So,
What's interesting is, the MGS trade school,
mhm.
where you are, and what does MGS stand for?
It's modern gun school.
Modern Gun School.
Yep.
It's a trade school, and one of my favorite topics when I talk about education is trade school. But what's interesting is a lot of people when they think of trade school, they think of becoming a plumber, a welder, electrician, that kind of thing. They don't necessarily think of gunsmithing.
No,
And I
no,
want to go into that in a minute. But what I also want to go into is, you don't look like you're 80 years old
no, no.
because when I think of gunsmiths,
I
I
feel like it.
yeah. I've got some friends in the gun industry, and they're all these gunsmiths, and they're these old timers, that are they're 80 years old, and they'll look at this little piece and they'll go, if we take this little piece here and we shave it around here, we'll add another tenth of a second to the left. I mean, like
Yeah,
these old timers really know their stuff. And,
yeah,
and I think it's a dying breed because I don't see young guys in the industry, but are you seeing more young guys come into the gun industry, the gunsmithing
absolutely.
industry?
One of my favorite things that happens in this world, the education space for gunsmithing, because we are VA approved. So we have a lot of veterans and active duty guys that sign up for the course. A lot of these guys are like, yeah, I'm never going to go to college. I'm just going to get out of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whatever. Okay, Coast Guard too. And
Yeah.
just do whatever job I
Don't
can.
forget Space Force.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Space
no, I
Force.
mean,
Exactly.
y'all
Um,
gonna be doing laser beam or the
no, I won't be doing any stormtrooper blasters, but that would be cool though. Now I got an idea. Um,
MGS now offering
stormtrooper blasters.
yeah.
Um, but we get a lot of these guys that'll reach out and say, "Hey, I never thought I would go to college, and I found out that the government would pay for me to go to your school. I went through, did great. And now I'm working on a bachelor's or a master's or something like that, and it's really cool to hear them say that. while we're not a degree granting program, it still gets you back into the swing of going to school, you know.
Right.
Um, and it's really cool because there's a lot of hands-on products that we have. To back to what you were saying about the older guys being the ones you see in gunsmithing, it's true. And a lot of these guys are either passing on or retiring, and they're not passing that knowledge down. You don't see a whole lot of kids wanting to be apprentices under gunsmiths and stuff like that. So I can count on one hand how many gunsmiths are within a 100-mile radius, or how many gunsmiths that I would trust are within a 50 to 100-mile radius of me. And so it's a wide open market if somebody's wanting to get into that world. And is it one of those things that people ask all the time? Can I make a lot of money as a gunsmith? Yeah, I know. You know,
Right.
you can make a lot of money as a doctor, but I know people that have gone to Harvard Medical School and they're crappy doctors.
Yeah.
You know, so you take in the knowledge that we give you, you apply it, you get really good at some niches
Hmm.
within the industry, and you can do. I mean, I know some guys that are doing engraving, and they're the top notch engraving guys, and they can charge an arm and a leg for it because they're good at it.
It
But
depends,
then
I
I
guess,
know some guys.
how hard you want to work because, in the gun industry, like you said, there's guys who can set up shop and do repairs, but then you add on engraving, you add
Yeah,
on, refinishing or bluing or anything like that, and
absolutely.
you could be busy probably full time,
Oh,
making
absolutely.
some decent money if you get the work ethic.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And there's so many different types of gunsmiths out there that do all those different things, and they specialize in things. I know a guy that makes a killing hydro dipping things. You know, he started doing the hydro dipping for rifle graphics. You know, where you dip it in water and it has that almost like a vinyl film that has, whether it's skulls or American flags or
Oh wow.
any kind of cool stuff on it, and it'll adhere to whatever surface you do it. Well, then biker guys, hey, can you do my helmet like that? Can you do my gas tank like that? And people with flare fenders on their Jeep and they want a bunch of skulls or the American flag or whatever, Hello Kitty, whatever they want. And you know, and they get really good at the hydro dipping, and they get that niche of being a coating guy. And I've seen some amazing, like, blown deadlines, a good example of like custom paint Cerakote work and stuff like that. There's so many different aspects of gunsmithing that you can go down, not just the repair side, which we focus mostly on the repair side, but you get a good niche in these other things, and sky's the limit.
I have one of my sponsors, Golden Guns in Slidell, Louisiana, on Gauls Boulevard. He
Hmm.
does not just buy. He not only buys and sells guns, but he also does the electroplating on guns and does silver plating and gold plating, and does some and does some gunsmithing. He doesn't do major gunsmithing. No, he's got his little niches on a couple of things, but he stays busy 6, 7 days a week. He always and he does gun shows. I mean, of course, you hear some of those people that make some really good money. So there's
Yeah.
money, I'm sure, in the industry. But what I like hearing most importantly is that you do a lot of work with veterans. I've been doing a lot of shows on veterans, and there's a lot of veterans that really need our help. Of course, unfortunately, we know that veterans are committing suicides at high rates, and
Yep.
there's veterans that are in drug courts, and there's a lot of veterans that are having a lot of problems adjusting to civilian life. I see your trade school MGS as being something that could be almost as a way a big stepping stone or a landing pad, if you will, for guys that are been in the military for a while. Maybe they've been on active duty, maybe they've been in Iraq or in Afghanistan. They get out, and guns is something that is kind of that a comfortable place. They're used to it. They know about it. They get in your school. It's paid for, and now they can learn a trade that they can actually help cope with, if you will. And I don't
Hmm.
mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that a lot of vets have a hard time adjusting back into civilian life, and I look at your school, and since it's paid for by the government, as a way to help them adjust and make a great living.
Yeah, and that calls back to that statement of, not only did they not think they would go to school, but we're a school that they get to learn about something they already know about, guns. They
Exactly.
know guns,
Right.
and so they've kind of got a head start when they come in there. I mean, most of these guys know how to tear down and put back together a lot of these things that they're learning with us. So, yeah, I
What's
agree
interesting
wholeheartedly.
is when we say guns and we talk about guns, you know, now of course I don't mean this seriously, but it almost sounds like, you know, we fall into that narrative. Oh, that's those rednecks. They're always trying to kill somebody or something,
Yep.
or something. And it has such a the narratives that the media have put out have such a negative connotation about it. But the reality is, when you go back generations where, you know, kids were learning gun techniques at young ages, you know, Boy Scouts, and even in school where they taught gun safety and how to use a
Yep.
gun, how to shoot properly. You know, it was made into a sport and a way of life instead of, you know, that's an attempt to hurt somebody.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
think that's that's something we've lost. Does MGS go into anything like that where they actually say, "Hey, we're going to talk about gun safety to help improve the narrative or the negative connotation"? Does MGS teach anything around their teaching of gunsmithing, but also in when you're out in public, here's a way to promote gun safety?
Not necessarily
Anything like
from the perspective of spreading the word, right? But when it
right?
comes to doing their projects, their hands-on projects, in the advanced two course, there's a build project that they do where they get to build a firearm of their choice. We harp on gun safety and the four cardinal rules like crazy, and we teach them in all the courses, you know, in the beginning, you know, remember these four. If these four cardinal four cardinal rules are followed, nobody's going to get hurt, even
What are
if
the
there
four cardinal
is.
rules?
Keep your finger off the trigger until your
Okay.
sights are on the target, you know, and you're ready to shoot. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. If it's loaded, wow, that's it almost sounds treated like it's unloaded. No,
Yeah,
treat
right.
every firearm as if it's loaded. Never point the muzzle at something you do not wish to destroy, and know your target and what's beyond it. You know, if you follow those, and a lot of people don't think of that last one. You know, because of movies. You know, movies tell you that if you shoot somebody, the bullet's stopping right there. So you can use them as human shields. You can shoot the bad guy with 20 good guys behind them. No, 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 no. That's not how bullets and ballistics work. So you know, we definitely do teach stuff like that. You know the reality of firearms, the science behind them, the safety behind them, and carry that into your career. We don't really tell them go out and spread the word. That's something that we'll do when we go to events, whether we're at
By example,
NRA.
yeah, by example.
Right, right, exactly. It's not necessarily a. I would love to have a program like that at some point. Something where people who are either anti-gun or even on the fence about guns can log into this program and learn this stuff. Because I'm a firm believer, and I've done it myself, that I have talked to people who are anti-gun one on one. You can't do it with more than one person. You cannot fight the mob
Right.
mentality.
Oh,
It
yeah, you
doesn't
get
work.
ganged up on, right.
You'll get ganged up on. Your blood pressure will go up. You'll have an aneurysm. You'll die. um, it if I've talked to at least five people that were vehemently anti-gun. Three of those five now have arsenals themselves because I tell them, here's the reality of it. Whether it's lay the loaded Glock on the table, slap it, cuss it out, say you're the worst Glock in the world, you're the worst shooting gun I've ever seen. Huh? That gun's not jumping up and killing everybody.
Right, exactly.
My
I like that.
my favorite one was when Trump was in office because I would always get the um, well, nobody needs an AR-15 or AK-47. I would calmly say, well, I'm going to assume by that statement that you don't like Donald Trump. Immediately, oh, he's a Nazi. He's the second coming of Hitler. Oh, boy. Well, I'm about to explain to you what the Second Amendment is about. If you're right, let's suspend disbelief. Let's say you're right, and Donald Trump is a Nazi and the second coming of Hitler. Do you want that person taking our guns? And you see that light bulb go off.
That's really good, yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying you're right, but what the Second Amendment is about is that it has nothing to do with me getting mugged in the street. It has nothing to do with someone kicking my door down. It has nothing to do with hunting, sport shooting, or anything else. It has to do with, if you are that scared of a politician who is in leadership, you should be the most pro gun person of all, you know? And just kind of doing that. I would love to have a program like that people that are on the fence or even anti could log into and learn
Yeah,
about one on one, because I
exactly.
think we could convert a lot of people that way to understand it. And we can set aside all of our other politics until our Second Amendment is locked in. Then we could debate all that stuff. I have lots of friends that love guns now that we disagree on a lot of politics, but we can put all that aside to ensure our Second Amendment's still in place.
It's interesting you say that because I know a lot of very Democrat-minded people that still believe in the Second
Yep.
Amendment. And look, I
Yep.
know a lot of Republican people that still say, "Well, we shouldn't have AR-15s." I'm like,
Right.
most crimes are not committed with AR-15s. Well, the
No.
mass shootings, I'm like, yep, no, many mass shootings are not committed with AR-15s.
Yep.
And people don't realize that they buy into the narrative. But I like how you say that because if you don't agree with the president, you should be one of the most pro second. And it's not because you're saying you need to go out there and take action. It's that
Right.
you're saying we need, and it's also for me, it's more of a statement. When people have the Second Amendment, when our country has a Second Amendment, and it's known that many people are armed, it's almost like a level of confidence to say they know, we know, we're all going to leave each other alone. It's kind of like the nuclear arms race. You know,
Right.
all these big
Exactly.
countries that have the nuclear arms, they're probably never going to use them against each other. Hopefully not. But you know what? They all have them and say, I know
It's
you have them. I've got mine. We're going to leave each other alone.
an armed society is a polite society.
Yeah,
Because if everybody that has nukes now, they know that nukes now are not Hiroshima atom bombs. Nukes now are like hundreds of times more powerful. You set off a couple of those, we're done. We're done as a human race. The world is pretty much going to where in a handbasket.
exactly.
Um, so it's a stalemate for them to have negotiations from. And same thing. There is probably less than a 0.3% chance that us as a society would have to raise up arms against our government, right?
Exactly.
As long as the Second Amendment is in place,
I love it.
because the government does not want to start that. The government does not want to have to go start killing hundreds of thousands of
No,
civilians in their own country. So it's this stalemate that gives us a platform to negotiate from. It gives us that power to be able to say, mm,
mm, yeah, that could do it.
no,
Yeah,
that's not right. And I hate cliches, but there's been some cliches in the last few years that have been really really good. I'll start with the ones I hate. We have got to stop the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, because I
right.
watch people's faces as they hear that and they just cringe if they're anti-gun. If you make somebody cringe, you're not going to convert them. My job is to convert these people to understand why we have these rights. My job is not to make you cringe and make you feel stupid. We get nowhere that way. My job is to convert you, right? So that's not my job, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying. In these
exactly.
debates, um, but one of my favorite ones here lately is, if a group is trying to disarm you for any reason, it's because they're going to want to do something that you would shoot them for. And that's kind of a deep, ooh.
Yeah, that was kind of like, ooh,
Yeah, but it's one of those deep blows that makes you go, ooh, I really got to think about that. Um, it's not for safety. Safety is a guise. Safety is a disguise. It's what governments and leadership and people in corporations use it. People in governments use it. High level leadership, if they make you afraid of something, and they say, I can provide this that will make you safe, you will go, okay,
Yeah, yeah, right.
okay. So when they say,
Here's a
you know,
whole
we're
box
gonna
of masks for you.
right, we're gonna take away guns to make you safe. People who aren't thinking logically and thinking of the entire argument and listening, not just going with what their side. Listen to the other side. If you still disagree, if I have a conversation with someone who's anti-gun and I talk to them the way I do, I never talk condescending. I never
Mhm.
call them stupid. I never call them names. If at the end of that conversation they're still vehemently anti-gun, I'm going to respect them. Great, thank you for listening, because we had a dialogue about it, you
Right.
know, and hopefully in my mind somewhere down the road they go, I'm kind of thinking about what he said,
It's
um
kinda no,
go ahead.
it's kinda what I did with politics, when
Yeah,
even though I'm on the right side of the aisle, when people bring it when I'm talking to somebody who is obviously nowhere even listening to anything that's to the right of where they are, if they're far to the left or whatever, but when I talk to them, I'm like, "Well, if I can't find things that we can unite on or even talk about, there's no use trying to convince somebody. You're not gonna be able
right,
to take them out of their space." So I always try to meet people where they are. And what I've found by that, Zeke, is when you meet people where they are, you actually might learn something that actually helps your movement or your ideas or your beliefs. It helps.
100%.
That's what's happened for me. But I do want to talk about MGS a little bit more, though.
Yes, please.
Exactly. What type of gunsmithing do you all teach? Can we just give some examples of what people will learn at their school?
Well, you'll get, so in our advanced 1 and 2, I'll just talk about advanced 2. We've got a basic, we've got advanced, and we've got advanced 2. Basic is kind of what you would imagine. It's the knowledge base with a couple of hands-on projects. Advanced has 7 hands-on projects, and advanced 2 has the 7 hands-on project. Plus, you get to build a firearm at the end that's yours to keep. The other thing about advanced 2 is you get over $1,300 in additional tools. So if you want to become a gunsmith and you want to start your own shop or start out of your garage, or be able to go to any shop and have the tools that you need to get started, we've got that program in place for the students now. But a lot of it is repair. Those hands-on projects teach you everything from refinishing the M1 Garand stock. That's the first thing you get to do, which is
Oh,
really
wow.
cool. You get to do a lot of woodwork. And then, something as simple as silver soldering 2 pieces of metal together. Um, so we go advanced to basic, but stuff that you would need to know as a gunsmith, starting off, definitely. And then of course the builds are, invaluable. You need to know how to work on a gun from parts to what they are. I have countless stories I've heard from gunsmiths that are like, yeah, this guy brought me a gun in a bag. It's just a bag
Yeah.
full of parts. And it's like, this is my grandfather's closet. Can you build it? What is it? And then they come up with something amazing. Is a Colt Walker or something like
Yeah,
that in a
right,
bag.
exactly.
So knowing the intricacies of how these parts are put together and fit together is very important. So right now we have 3 options for the build. You get to choose from an AR-15, which is the most popular sold rifle in America. So it's probably important that you know that from the ground up. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's AR-15. Anybody can build them." Yeah,
Yeah,
a
give
lot
it
of
a
people
shot.
listen. Yeah, a lot of people listening to us have built them, and I have a lot of friends that build them, and they are kind of like Legos for adults that can be deadly. But as a gunsmith, you will have a lot of guys that go and buy an M&P 15 off the shelf. They don't want to tinker with it. They don't want to tear it apart. So they're going to bring it to their gunsmith and say, "Here, fix this. Here, tear it apart and clean it for me." So yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
right,
important gun.
exactly.
The second one is a Lone Wolf Palmer striker fire pistol. Their G17 model, and with Glock popularizing those striker fire pistols in America, it's the top selling gun and handgun in America. So also important for our students to learn. So that's another option. And actually, my favorite one, because I've had to build all these and help write the curriculum. We do a traditions muzzle loader American long rifle build, like the old Revolutionary War.
Right.
It's not flintlock like that one. This one's going to be a percussion cap, but it's so fun. And as you're working on it, and how simple it is, but still how there's so many different things you have to do. Um, it's really cool, and you start to kind of feel like, this is must have been what it was like, back in the old frontier days to work on these things, to build them and all that stuff. So that's a really cool build. I think that one will probably be our most popular one once it's all said and done. But
This is cool.
yeah, it is. It's so cool, and not only that, you may never shoot this thing, but you can hang this on the wall and it looks awesome. You know, it is just a cool looking rifle.
So I am curious though. Yeah, you said no one's ever shot this, but does anybody do y'all do this online? Is there anything in person?
Mhm.
Can somebody come up there in person, or is it just all online?
It's all correspondence course. So all of these hands-on projects, everything's we ship out to the student. You do it at your own pace, but we only give you, I believe it's 18 months to complete it. Most people will complete it within, 8 to 12, 14 months, right in that range. Um, but yeah, we ship all the hands-on projects to you. You ship them back to us. There's a couple of them that a lot of people want to buy. Like when they refinish that M1 Garand stock, most people want to buy it, so we'll sell them that stock. Um, and they'll just send us pictures of it refinished. Of course, with the firearm, it is serialized, so you can't send that back to us. You keep that.
Yeah, exactly right,
uh,
exactly.
um, but yeah, it's a very cool program that we've stood up, and there's a lot of really cool things and a lot of really cool results that these students are doing with it.
That's pretty interesting. Do y'all do anything with ammo, reloading at all?
No, not yet. That's another one I'd like to get started. We're an accredited school, so the DEAC, which is the Distance Education Accreditation Commission, we're accredited by them. So we technically can't really talk about any programs that are in development. That's not in development. So, but it's one that I would love to get going, is to get a little reloading program going. The tough part right now is with the economy, what it is, and with, you know, ammo prices have gone up, but so have all the components for reloading.
Right,
So
exactly.
it used to, you could reload and save, 10, $20 on a box of nine. Now you're lucky if you save $1. So is it worth that time? Because a lot of people don't realize, oh wow, I saved $2 on reloading that box of ammo. Huh? Did you? Did you spend $2 to go to the gun shop to buy the ammo that was already loaded? And
Exactly.
and how much of your time did you spend reloading, which is worth money? It's one of those things where, is that trade-off good? Now, if you're a specialized hunter, and you need a specialized load, or a competition shooter, yeah, sure, reloading is really good still. So I need to find that balance of, is it still worth it? Is this something that would be beneficial to teach our students?
Because people go by grain, and there's always those two
Yeah,
specific grains for one bullet. I guess somebody who's a specific weapon, or maybe they shoot a lot, they might say, I want to bump it up and go, an extra 2 grains, or I want to go
yeah,
down an extra 10, 7.5 grains. I guess they can get that technical with it if they knew how to reload, to
very
those
true.
specifics, on that.
Yeah.
Another question that came up my mind when I was thinking about it earlier, you know, ATF is coming out with all kinds of new laws, all kinds of, of course, we all know about the was it the arm, then, but where the gun actually attaches to your arm. I forget
Oh,
what that's called.
the sig brace type stuff, the arm
Oh yeah,
brace. Yeah,
arm brace and stuff like that.
yeah.
Do you find that your gun school often, I don't want to say collides, but and probably hardly ever, but are there ever times when what you are teaching. You say, oh, we have to change this up because this new ATF law says that, I'll give you an example, the binary triggers. You
Yeah.
know, I guess maybe when you all used to teach binary triggers, is that an example of when the ATF changes the law? Now you got to
Yeah.
change a course in the school. Does that happen?
Yeah, we have to. Anytime a new law comes out, firearms wise, we need to make sure we comb through our curriculum to see if there's anything they were wrong about at this point. A perfect example is the 80% law. The quote unquote ghost gun builds.
Right. Oh,
That
yeah,
they
that's
just
another
got
good one,
rid of,
right?
right? So when we first started looking at doing a build program for our students, we thought about doing the 80 blowers. We thought it'd be great because there's a few extra steps you have to do, and it's great for the gunsmith to learn this stuff. And if they want to build their own firearms, they could serialize the lower themselves with their new FFL, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, as we were trying to go down that road, we got wind that was going to pass. So we ended up going with serialized firearms. But yeah, so that's a perfect example, where we had to pivot and change what we needed to do because the ATF decided something was bad.
So y'all don't do the ghost the air quote the ghost guns at all.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. Everything's
But
serialized that we do now.
and what's interesting is it is, on the ATF side, they don't stop crime at all whatsoever.
No,
And, the serial numbers don't stop crime or slow it down. They simply, and then in today's times, most of those guns are stolen or traded. So it's hard to even, it would be hard to even, to go back to where they were in the beginning. So
exactly.
do you guys do anything to promote? I say we talked about this a little while ago, promoting safety. But do you all ever teach what type of safety things you teach besides those four cardinal rules?
Um, we teach some. We don't teach machining in and of itself. Like we don't teach you how to use a lathe because there's too much liability if doing that
Right,
correspondence
exactly,
wise.
exactly right.
But if you are doing machining, make sure your hair is up. Lots of different safety things with that. Um, whoa, echo bad.
Yeah,
But just different things to help the student stay safe as they're working, help when they're setting up their shop. What are the best ways to set up your shop? One thing I say in all the functions test check videos where I film for the students is like, if I'm working on a firearm, I don't have live ammo anywhere on that workbench. I don't want the chance of me checking that ammo, that firearm. It's unloaded. Turn around, I hit a bump the table, and the round accidentally rolls in the chamber. I don't pay attention. Boom! I got a hole in the wall, my foot, my hand, whatever. So that's a safety thing. Just keep that off of the area that you're working on that firearm. It, it's one of those things where because we're not teaching firearms training, handling of guns, different things like that. We're sticking to what we do. The safety that's involved in what we do, not the safety in the actual shooting and defensive use of the firearms.
Earlier you talked about ballistics and talked about, situational awareness and where the gun,
Yeah.
making sure, where the gun's pointed. And it made me think then, and I'll bring it back up now, I like that you brought that up because all too often people, of course, you always hear the New Year's Eve stories where people shoot the guns in the air. And they, of course,
Oh yeah.
that's not your, I know that's not your students. I know that. But,
No.
still and all though, when you're in the woods or wherever you are, you need to know that whatever you're shooting at, you have to be aware of the ballistics. Do you all teach ballistics in your school at all, or is that something that would go with training that you don't teach, but maybe making people aware of and say, hey, look, if you're working on a 308, just know that this bullet, of course, added information. This bullet can travel
Right.
through a human, can go beyond or whatever.
Not from the perspective of, like you said, shooting the gun in the air, that bullet's coming down at some point, but to know the ballistics of the rifles you're working on or handguns or whatever, to know the ballistics of the bullets that you buy, Don't just
Right.
buy a box of 9mm because you know your gun takes my 9mm. Look at it, learn what the feet per second are. We do teach them about feet per second, foot pounds of energy, stuff like that. But back at liability, we're not going to teach them how to get more feet per second or foot pounds
Exactly.
energy, because then somebody loads a hot load thinking, oh, I'm going to get this, and then they blow their hand off, you know. So we've got to be very careful with that stuff too.
That's pretty neat. So,
Yep.
do y'all do anything? Do y'all talk about anything about what your feeling is on how to reduce gun crimes in America?
Not as a school.
Yeah.
Personally, I do.
Yeah. Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
the school is the backdrop for our conversation today,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you have so much experience in the gun world. And when I bring on people that talk about the Second Amendment, or whether it's a gun business or a gun manufacturing facility or somebody in the business, I always like to talk about gun safety because, for the people that don't agree with our gun rights, I always
Mhm.
tell them that gun owners are some of the safest people in the world when it comes to guns, because they're the ones who are the most aware of the laws, of the
Yep.
rules, the ballistics, and everything. And so it's up to us to always show that information, I think, to other people. So I always use the opportunity to ask the question to be able to help educate people who might not know a piece of information, so we can pass on good information to help improve the industry.
And I'll take that a step farther. People that carry and have a carry permit, they have been checked out by the FBI. They have been checked out by the ATF. Who knows how many other alphabet soup agencies have checked us out, for us to maintain and get that carry permit. So not only we're the safest, we're some of the most law abiding
Right, exactly.
citizens in America, and people like to attack us, and that can get frustrating at times. Instead of going, what is at the core of these shootings? What is at the core of someone that wants to pick up a gun and kill 20 people? You know, how do we stop that? What are the signs that we saw with all these shootings?
Exactly.
Why are we finding out that a lot of the same signs are being seen and nothing's being done? You know,
Exactly.
I I think that's the important stuff we need to look at. I I back to the cliche, the guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Right.
It, it's true. You know, uh, there was a guy in, I think it was Russia or Ukraine or somewhere years ago, maybe like something like the last 10 years, somewhere like that, who stabbed up a ton of kids at a
Oh,
school
yeah.
with a
Oh, yeah.
knife. Um, I always hear the argument of, well, there's no gun crime in England anymore, in London, because they banned guns. You're right. The gun crime's next to nothing in London. You're correct. But the violent crime skyrocketed.
They're stabbing each other to death over there.
Right. Because all of a sudden, the people who are bad, the people who are going to do bad things, let me take that back. Because there's a lot of people that do bad things that have gotten themselves into a situation and they make a very bad choice. They may not be bad people, but the people who are going to make those bad choices and do very bad things that are very evil things are going to do them,
Right.
whether they do it with a gun,
Well,
whether
do you
they
know
do it
what
with
the
a lead
largest
pipe, or whether they do it with a knife.
do you know what the largest school massacre was?
No.
Explosives. It was a dynamite. And this is back in the, I think it was the late 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I
Yep.
forget. I actually used to know more about the story, and I forgot it recently. But where they the madman, put dynamite underneath a school and killed over 100 people, 100 children in one explosion. You know,
Sad.
so that's, and again, not to share the story, but but again, it goes back to, guns. I hate the cliche, guns don't kill people, bad people with bad hearts kill
Hmm.
people. But
Yep.
it's up to responsible gun owners to, not only do we have the responsibility of being a law abiding, citizen that owns a weapon, It's up to us to spread the information to help those that don't like our rights and give
Yeah.
them good information that we can all promote to help curb gun violence. It's like it's that fine line that we walk, on how to protect our constitutional rights while still finding ways to reduce gun crimes. And I
Right.
say fine line because, of course, the narrative is get rid of guns, we get rid of crimes,
Yeah.
but we don't want to get rid of our constitutional rights at the same time. And
Sure.
that becomes cliche-ish in itself. However, it goes back to, if we got rid of guns, we'd all be more victims of. And it's another one of those cliches that we hate, but
Yeah.
either way. Do you
But carrying a gun to me, and this is a way that I think that as gun owners we can kind of change the narrative a little bit, right? Because let's face it, people who are anti-gun, that don't like guns, they see us who carry a weapon, who have an arsenal, or I laugh when I use the word arsenal. I shouldn't use that because that's what the news does when they find 10 guns in a house. Oh, I had an arsenal and a
Yeah.
stockpile of ammo, and they have what, 600 rounds? Come on, man. That's not a
Yeah.
stockpile. Anyways, people that have firearms, I carry a weapon not because I think it's cool, not because, ooh, violence, can't wait to shoot some.
Right.
No, I don't want to shoot anyone. I don't. I carry it because it's an act of love. And I see what's happening in the world. I see the violence that's out there. I see the bad things that are happening. If something happens and it hits the fan while I'm around, I have a tool on my hip that I can take care of myself. I can take care of my children. I can take care of my loved ones and my family and friends.
Mhm.
And if you're there and I can take care of you, even if you're anti-gun, I can take care of you. It's an act of love to carry a firearm. It's not an act of, ooh, cool, I need more testosterone. No,
Yeah.
that's not what it is.
Well,
It's because I
wait.
want to be able to can if something happened and I didn't have my firearm on me, and my daughter or son or stepkids or wife or friends or mom or dad or whoever got killed or even wounded because I wasn't able to do anything, it would eat me alive for the rest of my life.
One of the
Yeah.
first things I learned about carrying a gun and gun training classes was
What's that?
how not to use it.
Exactly.
Was how to be aware of my surroundings,
Yep.
to get out of a surrounding, to how not to use it. And what I learned as much of how to use it or when to use it was when not to use it.
Yep.
And you learn if there's law enforcement around, or if you learn whenever there's somebody around, you learn how not to use it and you become more situationally aware and you become more cognizant of your surroundings and you become more almost respectful of the people in the room with you. But,
Yeah.
but I do wanna
Eh,
ask you some more. Go
okay.
ahead.
Oh, and the other thing, kind of what you're saying, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, you must be nervous or scared having that gun." No, I'm actually more calm with it, because I have trained like you
Exactly,
have.
exactly.
You go through a mindset training. It's not just any. That's another thing I recommend. I don't think we should mandate stuff, but hey, I think everyone should train as much as you can possibly train because carry permit classes don't prepare you. They don't. They don't prepare
Exactly.
you for the mental aspect that may come from having to shoot another human being. So take as many training courses as you possibly can. They're all over the country. So
So how far do you guys reach with MGS? How far do you all go with MGS? I mean, I guess obviously it's in America, but do you
mhm.
have other people from other countries that end up taking your course?
There are certain countries that can take certain aspects of the course, right? Certain very basic things that we teach that we can send certain places. We've kind of dialed that back a little bit because of ITAR regulations. There's not a whole lot you can teach on firearms. So it's not worth dumbing down the course to, a few chapters to
Yeah.
do it. But it's the United States. Unfortunately, with certain states, certain builds aren't allowed. So, that's one of the reasons we went down the muzzleloader route because you can build those in all 50 states.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So certain states say you can't build certain guns?
Oh yeah, you can't build ARs and Glocks in certain states.
I didn't know
Well, not
that.
Glocks, but polymer pistols. Yep.
I didn't know this.
Yep.
So what states can you not build an AR?
Uh, the ones you would think. I don't have it in front of me, and I
Yeah,
don't want to rattle off a bunch of states and be wrong about them.
I
But
get you.
but what we have them listed on the website, and then also we tell the students to make sure they know the laws before they pick which firearm build they want to do. And most states you can build the polymer style striker fire pistol, but then you have to get a magazine that's legal in your state.
So
So
you all
like
talk.
California, you can't have a 17 round mag to put in this polymer billet. You have to get a 10-round magazine. So it's a state legal magazine.
So do you all tailor your classes to the state that they're in?
No, we just have those. The build options is about the only thing that we tailor, and that's just, hey, this option is not an option for you in Massachusetts to build
Okay.
an AR. So you're gonna have to take the polymer striker fire pistol or the muzzleloader build. Um, so that's pretty much all we do there.
Here's the course, and whether if you're in this state, in these states you can't take this course. These states you can't take this course, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, the builds. It's pretty much just the build options. Yeah.
Do you any kind of unique gun history, any type of unique gun builds or anything like that that you all have done? Anything that's more unique than the muzzle loader? I mean, some people might think that's the most unique, but any type of unique gun history?
We are back to the accrediting body saying I can't talk about something that's in the works.
Oh, okay. All right. I got it. All right. Okay.
So
I
I'll
only have a
leave that at
couple more
that.
questions. I know that I know,
Yeah.
and I know, but we didn't talk about this at the very beginning. That you're
Oh, you're
also
good.
got a little out, upper respiratory thing going on too. Do you know what the story about the automatic rifle that was actually in existence when the founding fathers wrote the Constitution? There is a
No.
I thought you might know it. I just found out about it,
Are
but
we talking about like a Gatling gun? But I don't even
it's
think that was
actually
around in the Constitution
it was
times.
actually precursor to the Gatling gun. There was actually was a semi-automatic gun that
Oh,
was
semi-automatic.
that was in existence
Gotcha.
during the when the founding fathers with the Constitution. Because one of the things that the anti-gun people like to say all the time is, you know, they didn't have automatic guns back when the founding fathers with the Constitution. And I said, well, they didn't have the internet or computers either.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with the guns, right?
Right.
This is where people are like, well, they didn't have that was made for muzzleloaders. Fine, okay. I'll give them. This is what I do with the people that go down that argument route. Okay, fine. If that's what you want to believe, then the First Amendment does not apply to your TV, your computer, your telephone, the printing press. I mean, it only applies to the written word and speaking on the public streets. That's the only place the First Amendment applies to. If you're going to say the Second Amendment only applies to muzzleloaders.
Well, speaking of that, yeah, I meant to put this up a little bit earlier, and but to put your website up there for people to see it if they want to go
Oh,
find out about
it's
your
it's actually it's mgs.edu is the website. So.
about
Don't you
MG.
love that?
Yeah.
mgs.edu.
mgs.edu. I was just going off what was on your business card. Um, you
Oh,
know,
that did you get an old business card?
oh, I got it right. I got it right here. It's modern www.moderngunrepair.com on
Oh
your business
wow, that
card.
is an old one.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's mgs.edu now. So
yeah.
yeah.
But do you? I mean, I know you guys cannot teach. Well, I don't know if you can or not. Class 3 firearms, all fully automatic weapons. Now, I know you couldn't teach it to the general public because you have to have a Class 3 firearms license to be able to even own a fully automatic. But do you all do any kind of programs for people that have Class 3 firearm licenses to be able for fully automatic weapons?
Part of our course is the student has to get an FFL because to work as a gunsmith as your own business, you need to have an FFL to take
Oh, I
in the
didn't know that.
firearms. Yeah, yeah. Now, if you worked at a gun shop, you can fall under the privy of being an agent of that FFL for the gun shop and work for the gun shop. But if you're
Okay.
starting your own business, you got to get your FFL. So we partner with FFL 123, which is a program that makes getting your FFL very simple, and they can get, all of their classes if they want to get it done, and go through all the hoops that they have to do that. We do teach about uh, class 3 firearms. We don't teach how to build them or anything, but they do need to know, hey, this may come across your counter. If you work for an FFL that has class 3, class 7, all everything you need, um, you may be working on one of these guns. So yeah, we absolutely talk about that in the program.
So they teach any classes for it or anything like that?
Not specifically a class on class 3, no, but we do mention them and bring up different things and aspects of them throughout the program.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Well,
Yep.
I don't know, Zeke. I mean, have I forgotten anything, any good stuff that you guys? I mean, anything else about the school that maybe you want to share that to help get some other people interested in it?
The biggest thing that I wanted to do with the Advanced 2 program is, when in the past, what I've heard is, neat. I took this course and I learned what I need to learn. I did a build. How do I start a business with an AR-15 I built? And the answer is you really can't. Um, we send out a bunch of hand tools, files, different things, punches, et cetera, but we didn't send out bench grinders and Dremels and all kinds of hand tools and desktop tools that they may need. So I wanted to put together a package where it's like if you graduate from auto diesel college, you can take all these tools you have and go and work on the cars that you learned
Right.
to work on because you got the tools that when you graduated. So that was part of it. That's one of the cool things. The other thing I really wanted to do is I've got a degree in biology.
Wait, you
I
have a
work in
degree
the
in biology?
I got a degree in biology and I work in the gun industry. The reason I'm saying that is I'm strapped with student loans for a degree that I don't use. I
Right.
mean, in a roundabout way, there have been jobs that have led me to an executive role where I had to have a bachelor's degree to get those jobs, but I'm not working in biology. So I wanted it to be an affordable program. So our highest level program is still under $6,000, which is exceptional. And you don't have to pay that up front. We do have a payment plan program. It's not federal student loans, so you don't get all the ridiculous interest.
Right.
But we're like, hey, if you give us this up front and you pay this a month, well, you can get enrolled and get going. So we want it to be affordable. The biggest thing that I harp on all our employees constantly, and not that they need it, because they know it, they understand this is our core value, is we always put the students first. Before anything else, our students come first. So you never have to worry about being left in the dark because it's scary going to correspondence school. I've done it before. I've
Right.
done online courses. You just kind of feel like your professor doesn't exist.
Right.
Um, so we always make sure that if students have questions, we get back to them within 24 to 48 hours. And we have many different routes where you can reach out to our instructors and student services and everybody else to get stuff done.
I mean, that is pretty interesting because, like you said, since it's all online and all on video and all virtual, there's no way to know, hey, is it really a person back on the other side of the camera?
Correct.
Do I know
Right.
about that? But once again, it gives people the independence that they could do this course while they could do these courses while they have another job at the same time.
Exactly.
So they could either get the financing that they need for it, or a veteran can have the government pay for some of it, or they could pay for it while learn while they're working too at the same time.
Right. And that's what a lot of people do. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of young people outside of people that are fresh out of the military. We don't have a whole lot of kids coming out of high school and enrolling, and we got a handful. A lot of our students are people that are wanting a career change or they're wanting to get the foot in the door with the gun industry. We've got people that have taken our course just to get a better knowledge base for guns, and gone into accounting and marketing in the gun industry just because they want to work in the gun industry. So,
But
yeah.
they know about it. I mean, of course, like,
Yeah, yeah,
when
absolutely.
when you have a knowledge of guns like that,
Yep,
if you're doing it in the accounting, you never know how it's gonna help you, especially at
absolutely.
like a big dealer like Lipsy's or something like that,
Yep.
I'm sure you're familiar with Lipsy's.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, Zeke, is there anything else that we forgot about? I mean, we've been pretty comprehensive, not only in the school, but I like how we blended in gun safety and gun statistics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure people realize about about your trade school, because
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it really is. It's not like you said. It's not just for people who want to have a career change. It's also for people who want to have a knowledge of a firearm, of a gun, how not only how to use it, but the inner workings of it, because I think it promotes safety, in general. So if you're going to be a lifelong firearm owner, you might as well know how guns work on a much more in-depth level, or in your case, on a biological level, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, Zeke, thank you so much. Oh, well, I do have one last
Appreciate it,
question
man.
for you. I always
Yeah,
ask
go for it.
all my guests on my show. In America, we always about freedoms and liberties, but I always look for the things that unites us in our country. I believe that in America we are actually more united than what the media will tell us. Whether you like guns, don't like guns, whether you believe in a certain marriage or pro-life or pro-choice, whatever your ideologies are, I still believe that there's actually more in America that unites us than divides us. So my question for all my guests is, in your opinion, what is it in America that unites us? What's the greatest uniting factor in America?
I'm gonna say the world, and it's love.
And it's
That's it.
love.
Love. Whatever it is you love. If you are religious and you love your faith, if you love your family, if you love your fellow human being, I think if you can figure that out, if you can tap into that, life takes a different turn
Would it
for
be
the better.
the freedom to love, or just the fact that love thrives in America?
That love, I think having the freedom to love and love how you want, whether it's freedom of religion, freedom of, to love who you want, or anything along those lines. I think that does help it thrive. Anything you leave to just do what it does is gonna
I love
thrive.
it. I love it.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
that's a great answer. Zeke,
yeah.
I'm gonna close out the broadcast, but hang on, I'm gonna talk to you offline for another minute,
Okay.
for after in the broadcast. But I want to thank everybody so much for listening tonight. Of course, this show can be found on all podcast apps, whatever your favorite podcast player is. Check out the podcast version of this. I usually have it up in a few days. Find me on Cloud Hub. Find me on Mike Lindell's TV program. Find me here on Facebook. All of them at William Wallace for America. Remember, last name spelled Wallis. Thank you so much. Please share the interview with somebody you think might be interested in not only the Second Amendment, but how to further their education. Thank you so much and have a great night.